Have you ever wondered why two people can face the same challenge and come out with completely different results? Imagine two students who both fail the same math test. One shrugs, says, "I'm just not a math person," and avoids math for the rest of the semester. The other says, "I didn't study the right way. I'll figure it out," and starts looking for new study techniques. Same situation, same failure, but completely different mindsets. Carol Dweck, a psychologist at Stanford University, spent decades studying this difference. She found that it all comes down to a simple but life-changing truth. The way you think about your abilities shapes everything you do. She calls this the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is like having an invisible box around your abilities. You believe your intelligence, talent, and personality are set in stone. If you're smart, you'll always be smart. If you're not athletic, you'll never be athletic. Challenges become threats because they might expose your limits. In this mindset, failure isn't just something that happens. It's a label that defines you. A growth mindset is the opposite. It's the belief that abilities can be developed through effort, learning, and persistence. Failure isn't a dead end. It's feedback. When you hit a wall, you don't think, "I can't do this." You think, "I can't do this yet." The word "yet" becomes your secret weapon. Let's make this real. Think about Michael Jordan. In high school, he didn't make the varsity basketball team. In a fixed mindset world, that's where his basketball story would have ended. But Jordan took that failure as a challenge. He trained harder than anyone else, practicing in the mornings before school, pushing himself every single day. That hunger to improve turned him into the greatest basketball player of all time. Now here's the twist. Most people don't even realize what mindset they're in. You might think you're a growth mindset person because you like the idea of improvement, but your reactions under pressure tell the truth. When someone criticizes you, do you get defensive? When you see someone doing better than you, do you feel inspired or insecure? When something gets hard, do you want to lean in or back away? Those little reactions are the fingerprints of your mindset. Dweck's research didn't just stop with sports or school. She studied business leaders, artists, teachers, even relationships. She found that people with a fixed mindset often avoid feedback, stick to what they already know, and secretly hope others fail so they can look better. People with a growth mindset, on the other hand, actively seek feedback, experiment with new strategies, and celebrate others' success because it shows what's possible. One of the most powerful parts of her work is how subtle the difference can be. Imagine two kids learning to ride a bike. Both fall down. One says, "I'm not good at this," and quits. The other says, "That was scary, but I'm going to try again." The second kid isn't braver or more talented. They simply believe that trying again will make them better. This difference doesn't just shape how we deal with failure. It shapes how we handle success. In a fixed mindset, success feels like proof that you're talented, but that's risky because the moment you fail, that proof disappears. In a growth mindset, success is a snapshot of your current progress, not your final worth. You can enjoy it without fearing the next challenge. There's a story about Thomas Edison that perfectly captures this. When asked about his thousands of failed attempts to invent the light bulb, he famously said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not just a clever quote. It's a mindset in action. For Edison, every failure was simply another step towards success. But here's where it gets tricky. Our mindset isn't fixed about everything. You might have a growth mindset about learning languages. You believe you can improve if you practice, but a fixed mindset about drawing, thinking, "I'll never be artistic." Most of us live with a mix of both. The challenge is noticing where the fixed mindset sneaks in and starts making decisions for us. Carol Dweck noticed this in her own life. Even as a world-class psychologist studying the growth mindset, she caught herself avoiding challenges because she didn't want to look bad. That's when she realized developing a growth mindset isn't about being perfect. It's about catching those fixed mindset moments and choosing differently. This choice shows up everywhere. In school, students with a growth mindset see hard assignments as chances to get smarter. In sports, athletes use losses as training plans. In relationships, partners see disagreements as opportunities to understand each other better. And in careers, professionals use feedback to sharpen their skills instead of protecting their ego. Think about your own life. Have you ever quit something because you thought you just weren't built for it? What if that wasn't true? What if you simply didn't have the right approach yet? Imagine how many things you could learn if you stopped worrying about looking bad and started focusing on getting better. That's the heart of Dweck's message. Your mindset is like the operating system for your brain. It quietly runs in the background, deciding how you interpret challenges, how you see yourself, and ultimately, how far you'll go. You can upgrade it. You can rewrite it. And when you do, everything changes. Not instantly, but over time, in ways that are impossible to ignore. When you first hear about the growth mindset, it might sound like a nice theory. Believe in improvement, work hard, and you'll succeed. But the truth is, it's not just about working harder. It's about working differently. Effort in the wrong direction can be as useless as running on a treadmill expecting to reach a new city. One of Carol Dweck's most surprising findings was that praise can actually push people into a fixed mindset. Parents, teachers, and even managers often praise talent. You're so smart, you're a natural, you're gifted. At first, this feels good, but hidden inside those words is a trap. If being smart is who you are, what happens when you make a mistake? Suddenly, that mistake isn't just a small setback. It's proof that maybe you're not smart after all. Dweck found that when kids were praised for their intelligence, they became less likely to take on new challenges. They chose easier tasks to protect their smart image. But when kids were praised for their effort, "I love how hard you worked on this," they became more adventurous. They tackled harder problems, stuck with them longer, and bounced back faster after failure. This doesn't mean effort alone is the magic key. A growth mindset isn't about working endlessly without strategy. It's about believing that your strategies can improve, your skills can grow, and your current limits aren't permanent. When you think like that, you start looking for better ways to learn. There's a story from the world of chess that illustrates this perfectly. A young player named Josh Whiteskin, who later became a chess master, didn't just play game after game hoping to get better. He studied his losses. Every mistake was like a map pointing to where he needed to improve. Instead of protecting his ego, he treated his ego like a tool, something that served his growth instead of blocking it. That's one of the biggest mindset shifts you can make. Seeing failure not as a verdict, but as a teacher. In a fixed mindset, failure closes doors. In a growth mindset, failure opens them. Think about relationships for a moment. In a fixed mindset, if a relationship hits a rough patch, you might think, "We're just not right for each other," and walk away. In a growth mindset, you see it as a chance to understand each other better, to build skills like communication and empathy. The problem isn't a permanent flaw. It's a puzzle to solve together. The workplace is another place where mindset makes a huge difference. In companies where a fixed mindset dominates, employees hide mistakes, hoard information, and avoid risk. The culture becomes about looking good instead of doing good. But in a growth mindset company, mistakes are analyzed openly, ideas flow freely, and people feel safe experimenting. These companies innovate faster, adapt better, and tend to outperform the competition. And here's something crucial. Adopting a growth mindset doesn't mean you'll enjoy every challenge. Struggle can still feel uncomfortable. Criticism can still sting. The difference is, you learn to interpret that discomfort as a sign that you're in the middle of growth. It's like going to the gym. Your muscles ache, not because you're weak, but because you're getting stronger. Carol Dweck often reminds people that the growth mindset is not about being endlessly positive or pretending failure doesn't hurt. It's about facing reality with a different set of eyes. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," you say, "This is the part where it's supposed to be hard. And if I keep going, it'll get easier." This way of thinking changes how you measure progress. In a fixed mindset, progress is all about the outcome, the grade you got, the sales you closed, the record you broke. In a growth mindset, progress is measured by how much you've improved compared to yesterday. The question isn't, am I the best? It's, am I better than I was before? It's easy to dismiss this as soft motivation, but the science backs it up. Dweck's studies showed that students with a growth mindset actually achieved higher grades over time, not because they were more talented, but because they approached challenges differently. They asked more questions, sought more help, and kept going when others quit. And the best part? Mindset is not permanent. You can train it, just like a muscle. Every time you choose to see a challenge as an opportunity, you're reinforcing the growth mindset. Every time you reflect on a mistake instead of hiding it, you're rewiring how your brain responds to setbacks. The moment you realize this, life feels different. Suddenly, obstacles look less like walls and more like doors. Some locked, some open, some hidden. But all of them lead somewhere new if you're willing to try the key. There's a powerful moment in Carol Dweck's research when she talks about a single word that can transform your mindset. That word is yet. Think about the difference between I can't do this and I can't do this yet. The first shuts the door. The second leaves it open. Adding yet tells your brain that your current struggle is temporary, that your skills are still in motion. It's a small word, but it changes the story you tell yourself. She saw this in classrooms where teachers started using yet in their grading. Instead of giving a failing mark and moving on, they'd write not yet on assignments. It told students, you're not there today, but you can get there tomorrow. This simple shift dramatically increased motivation because students no longer saw themselves as stuck. The fixed mindset often thrives on the illusion of perfection, the idea that talented people succeed effortlessly. But every real success story is filled with struggle behind the scenes. Michael Jordan didn't make his high school varsity team the first time he tried out. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a phenomenon. These people didn't start perfect. They started persistent. The growth mindset lets you redefine what success even means. Instead of chasing validation, you start chasing mastery. You begin to enjoy the process as much as the result. This doesn't mean giving up on goals. It means valuing the journey that gets you there. There's a mental trap people fall into when they believe talent is everything. They avoid situations where they might look inexperienced. They stop themselves from learning new skills because they fear looking foolish. But here's the irony. The very discomfort they're avoiding is the doorway to growth. One of Dweck's most striking examples came from a group of students learning math. Those with a fixed mindset gave up quickly when they hit a hard problem, often saying things like, "I'm just not a math person." The growth mindset students, on the other hand, leaned in. Some even smiled when things got tough because they recognized that they were in the zone where real learning happens. Imagine if you approached every skill like that, not as a test of your worth, but as a training ground for your potential. You'd take more risks, ask more questions, and recover faster from setbacks. You'd become the kind of person others describe as fearless, not because you never feel fear, but because you act in spite of it. This applies far beyond school or work. It shapes how you respond to life itself. When life throws you a challenge, losing a job, failing a project, facing rejection, the fixed mindset whispers, "This is proof you're not good enough." The growth mindset says, "This is where you find out how good you can become." And the change isn't just internal. People with a growth mindset tend to inspire those around them. Their resilience becomes contagious. In teams, their attitude creates a safe space for experimentation. In families, it models perseverance for children. In friendships, it turns envy into encouragement. The most liberating part is realizing that you don't need to have been born with this mindset. You can start building it right now, in whatever small way you choose. It could be as simple as trying a new skill you've avoided, or reframing the next criticism you get as a tool instead of a wound. Every time you make that choice, you're proving to yourself that your story is still being written. And that's the ultimate power of the growth mindset. It puts the pen back in your hand. Carol Dweck's research doesn't just live in theory. It has been tested in real classrooms, sports teams, and businesses. One of the most fascinating findings is how the same challenge can break one person and build another, all depending on the mindset they bring to it. She describes how in schools, students with a fixed mindset often view effort as something only weak people need. If you're truly talented, they believe, you shouldn't have to try so hard. But in the growth mindset, effort isn't a sign of weakness. It's a signal that you're in the process of expanding what's possible for you. The harder you work, the closer you're getting to the next version of yourself. A striking example comes from athletes. Take Kobe Bryant. Known for his incredible work ethic, he famously said, "I wasn't the most talented, but I was willing to work the hardest." That's a growth mindset in action, not assuming greatness is fixed, but seeing it as the result of consistent, intentional practice. Businesses have similar stories. Companies with a fixed mindset culture often punish mistakes and value only the star performers. This creates an environment of fear and competition, where employees hide their weaknesses instead of improving them. On the other hand, growth mindset companies see mistakes as feedback, value collaboration, and reward learning curves. These environments encourage innovation because people aren't afraid to test ideas. Dweck also warns about the false growth mindset. This happens when people claim to have a growth mindset, but don't actually live it. For example, saying, "I believe in learning," but avoiding tough feedback, or praising effort without connecting it to real progress. True growth mindset isn't about blindly celebrating effort. It's about recognizing that effort, combined with the right strategies and feedback, leads to improvement. One way to check your own mindset is to notice how you react to 3 specific situations: criticism, challenges, and the success of others. If criticism feels like an attack instead of a chance to learn, that's a fixed mindset reflex. If challenges make you anxious instead of curious, that's a sign too. And if someone else's success makes you feel smaller instead of inspired, your brain is treating ability like a scarce resource. Switching to a growth mindset in these moments doesn't mean faking positivity. It means consciously reframing the story. Criticism becomes data. Challenges become training. Others' success becomes proof of what's possible. It's also important to remember that mindsets aren't permanent labels. You can have a growth mindset in one area of life, say learning music, and a fixed mindset in another, like public speaking. The goal isn't to be perfect. It's to expand the number of areas where growth thinking guides you. When you start doing this consistently, you'll notice a quiet but powerful shift. Setbacks no longer feel like dead ends. They feel like detours that might lead to something better than you originally planned. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" That single change in framing can transform how you approach every goal you have. The most inspiring thing about this is that it's contagious. If you adopt a growth mindset and stick with it, people around you will notice. Your persistence will challenge their fixed beliefs. Your openness to feedback will make them more comfortable with their own imperfections. And over time, this ripple effect can change the culture of your team, your workplace, even your family. One of the most eye-opening parts of Carol Dweck's work is how deeply our mindset shapes our identity. Not just what we do, but how we see ourselves. She found that from childhood, we start forming beliefs about what kind of person we are. I'm smart. I'm bad at math. I'm a natural leader. I'm shy. These labels can seem harmless, even motivating, but they can lock us into a fixed identity. When you believe you're naturally good at something, you might feel confident, but it also traps you. The moment you struggle, that identity feels threatened. Instead of thinking, I need more practice, you think, maybe I'm not who I thought I was. That fear can make you avoid challenges just to protect the image. On the flip side, if you believe you're naturally bad at something, you stop trying before you even start. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The fixed mindset turns both positive and negative labels into cages. The growth mindset breaks those cages. It says your identity isn't fixed, it's flexible. You are a work in progress, not a finished product. This doesn't mean denying your strengths or pretending weaknesses don't exist. It means seeing strengths as things you can keep developing and weaknesses as skills you haven't mastered yet. Dweck tells the story of a group of struggling students who were labeled slow learners by the school system. When given growth-oriented teaching, emphasizing effort, strategies, and progress, many of these students dramatically outperformed expectations. Their intelligence didn't magically change overnight. Their belief about what was possible did. This principle applies in adulthood too. Imagine someone who's terrified of public speaking. A fixed mindset says, I'm just not a good speaker. A growth mindset says, I'm not a strong speaker yet, but with practice and feedback, I can improve. That shift changes the entire approach, from avoidance to active training. One powerful habit Dweck recommends is replacing being statements with doing statements. Instead of, I am bad at time management, try, I haven't developed strong time management skills yet. That tiny change removes the weight of identity and focuses on action. It's also worth noting that the growth mindset isn't just about personal achievement. It's about resilience in relationships. In a fixed mindset, if a relationship hits a rough patch, you might think we're not compatible and walk away. In a growth mindset, you see it as we're hitting a challenge and we can learn to navigate it together. This doesn't mean every relationship can or should be saved, but it does mean you approach conflict with curiosity instead of final judgment. The bigger picture here is about freedom. A fixed mindset ties your worth to your current performance. A growth mindset frees you to explore, experiment, and evolve without fear of losing your value. You stop living as a fragile version of yourself and start becoming the adaptable, evolving person you're meant to be. And once you experience that freedom in one area of your life, it becomes addictive. You start asking yourself, where else have I been holding myself back with a fixed story? That's when the real transformation begins. Carol Dweck often points out that adopting a growth mindset isn't about pretending challenges are fun or setbacks are easy. It's about learning to see value in the very moments that used to make you want to give up. This is where resilience is born. Resilience in the growth mindset isn't some heroic act of willpower. It's the byproduct of believing that effort pays off and that learning matters more than looking perfect. When you truly internalize that, failure stops feeling like an identity crisis and starts feeling like feedback. One of the clearest examples of this comes from the tech industry. Startup founders often face multiple failures before hitting success. In a fixed mindset, each failure would feel like proof they're not cut out for this. But growth-minded entrepreneurs treat those failures like prototypes. Each one is an experiment that teaches them something vital for the next round. This doesn't just apply to entrepreneurs. In sports, Serena Williams has talked about how every loss is a lesson that sharpens her game. She doesn't frame those moments as, I'm not good enough, but as, I've learned something I can use to become better. That's the essence of resilience. Bouncing forward, not just bouncing back. Dweck also warns about the trap of perfectionism. Perfectionism is fixed mindset in disguise. It says, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. This attitude keeps people from starting new projects, trying unfamiliar activities, or taking risks that might lead to growth. In contrast, the growth mindset embraces imperfection as part of the process. The first version of anything you try will probably be messy, but that's how it's supposed to be. There's also a mental shift around timing. In the fixed mindset, if you're not successful by now, you assume you never will be. In the growth mindset, by now doesn't exist. There's only not yet. That phrase, not yet, is powerful. It creates space for possibility. It reminds you that skills and success develop on different timelines for different people. This mindset even changes how you interpret stress. In the fixed mindset, stress feels like a sign you're in over your head. In the growth mindset, stress can be a sign you're stretching yourself into new territory. Instead of retreating, you lean in, knowing the discomfort is part of adaptation. An important piece here is self-talk. The language you use with yourself can either reinforce a fixed mindset or nurture a growth one. Phrases like, I always mess this up, or I can't do this, slam the door on learning. Replacing them with, I'm figuring this out, or I need a new strategy, keeps the door open. Over time, these small language shifts change your default reaction to obstacles. The real magic happens when this becomes automatic. At first, you have to consciously reframe your thoughts. But with practice, your brain starts doing it on its own. A challenge appears, and instead of shrinking, you feel curiosity. A failure happens, and your first instinct is to extract the lesson. That's when you know the growth mindset has sunk deep into your habits. And just like resilience, this habit spreads to the people around you. When friends, teammates, or coworkers see you respond to difficulty with learning instead of defeat, it gives them permission to do the same. Your mindset becomes a quiet leadership tool, not through lectures, but through example. One of the most powerful aspects of the growth mindset is how it transforms the way we view feedback. In the fixed mindset, feedback can feel like a personal attack. If you believe your abilities define your worth, any suggestion that you could improve sounds like proof you're not good enough. That's why so many people become defensive, dismissive, or even hostile when receiving criticism. But in the growth mindset, feedback is redefined as fuel. It's not a judgment of who you are. It's information you can use to become better. This is why high performers in any field actively seek out critique. They understand that blind spots exist, and the only way to improve is to expose them. Carol Dweck often talks about how children respond differently depending on their mindset. Give a fixed mindset child constructive criticism, and they may shut down or feel ashamed. Give the same feedback to a growth-minded child, and they lean in, asking questions like, how can I do it better next time? The difference is not in intelligence or talent, but in interpretation. This skill of receiving feedback without ego is a superpower in adult life too. In careers, relationships, creative work, the people who can listen, reflect, and act on input grow exponentially faster than those who only want validation. But feedback isn't just about taking it well. It's also about giving it. In a fixed mindset culture, feedback often gets sugar-coated or avoided altogether because people are afraid of hurting feelings. Ironically, this robs others of the chance to improve. In a growth mindset environment, feedback is direct but respectful, aimed at helping the person move forward rather than tearing them down. The growth mindset also changes how we interpret comparison. In the fixed mindset, seeing someone excel can trigger envy or insecurity. They're ahead of me, so I must be behind. In the growth mindset, someone else's success becomes proof of what's possible. Instead of they're better than me, it becomes they figured something out. Maybe I can learn from them. This shift is critical in the age of social media, where constant comparison can crush confidence. Adopting a growth mindset means rewiring your reaction from feeling threatened to feeling inspired. And here's a key truth: feedback doesn't just come from other people. Life gives you feedback every single day. Missed opportunities, unexpected outcomes, patterns that keep repeating, these are all forms of data. In the fixed mindset, you might ignore or excuse them. In the growth mindset, you ask, what is this teaching me? The more you practice this, the more fearless you become in trying new things. If failure is feedback and feedback is fuel, then nothing is wasted. Every experience, whether smooth or messy, moves you forward. That's the mental freedom the growth mindset offers, the knowledge that you can learn your way to almost anything. Another key transformation that comes with a growth mindset is how you set and pursue goals. In the fixed mindset, goals are often about proving yourself, winning the award, getting the promotion, hitting a number that tells the world you've made it. But when the goal is tied to your worth, it becomes fragile. One setback can feel like a collapse, and the fear of not reaching it can lead to playing it safe instead of pushing your limits. In the growth mindset, goals shift from proving to improving. They're not there to certify that you're talented, but to stretch your abilities. The focus moves from the outcome to the process. This doesn't mean you stop caring about results. It means results are the byproduct of growth, not the only definition of success. Athletes who adopt this approach often describe how it changes their training. Instead of obsessing over winning the championship, they concentrate on sharpening specific skills, recovering faster, or building endurance. Ironically, this process-focused approach tends to lead to better results because the pressure to be perfect every time is replaced by curiosity and consistency. Carol Dweck notes that in education, this same principle applies. Students who set learning goals, like mastering a topic or improving their writing, end up achieving more than students who set performance goals, like getting a certain grade. The growth mindset reframes success as, I've learned something I couldn't do before, which is a target you can hit repeatedly without losing motivation. This shift also helps you take on long-term challenges. Big ambitions, whether personal or professional, require persistence over months or years. In the fixed mindset, the longer it takes, the more it feels like failure. In the growth mindset, time becomes part of the process. Every stage is valuable because it's building the skills and experience you need for the next step. And here's something powerful. In the growth mindset, setbacks don't erase progress. Just because you missed a week of workouts or a project didn't land doesn't mean you're actually back to zero. You still carry the skills, the lessons, and the perspective you've gained. This is why growth-minded people can recover from a bad week or even a bad year. They see the bigger picture. One subtle but important change is how you celebrate progress. In the fixed mindset, only big wins feel worthy of celebration. In the growth mindset, small wins matter just as much because they're evidence of movement in the right direction. This habit of recognizing small steps fuels motivation, making it much easier to stick with long-term goals. And maybe the most freeing part? You stop seeing success as a limited resource. In the fixed mindset, if someone else achieves something, it feels like there's less left for you. In the growth mindset, success is abundant. You realize there's room for everyone to win, and that other people's achievements can be a roadmap, not a threat. One of the most life-changing aspects of the growth mindset is how it reshapes your identity. In the fixed mindset, your identity is tightly bound to labels. I'm smart. I'm talented. I'm a natural at this. At first, these labels can feel empowering, but they can also become a cage. The moment you face something that challenges that label, it feels like a threat to your entire sense of self. Imagine being told your whole life that you're the smart one. Then you hit a problem you can't solve right away. In a fixed mindset, that's terrifying. It suggests you're not who you thought you were. The fear of losing the label can lead to avoiding situations where you might fail, which ironically limits your growth. The growth mindset releases you from that trap. Instead of identifying as a fixed trait, you identify as a learner. You're not smart or not smart. You're someone who can become smarter. You're not good or bad at something. You're in the process of getting better. This fluid identity gives you the flexibility to take on challenges without feeling like your entire worth is on the line. Carol Dweck explains that this shift often changes how people view risk. In the fixed mindset, risk is dangerous because it could expose weakness. In the growth mindset, risk is an opportunity to expand your capabilities. That's why people with a growth mindset tend to step outside their comfort zones more often, not because they're fearless, but because they see the potential payoff in personal development. This also changes the way you handle change itself. In life, change is constant. New jobs, new technologies, new relationships, unexpected disruptions. With a fixed mindset, each change can feel destabilizing because it shakes up what you already know. With a growth mindset, change becomes a natural part of your evolution. You expect it, you adapt to it, and you look for the ways it can help you grow. And perhaps one of the most empowering outcomes of this mindset is that you start to take ownership of your story. In the fixed mindset, your story feels predetermined. You are who you are, and that's that. In the growth mindset, you're the author. You can write new chapters, change the plot, and develop new sides of yourself at any time. This perspective is liberating because it means no mistake is final and no success is the peak. You're always in motion, always capable of evolving. And that's when life stops being about proving yourself and starts being about creating yourself. At the heart of Carol Dweck's work is a simple but transformative truth. The view you adopt for yourself shapes the way you live your life. A fixed mindset says your qualities are carved in stone. A growth mindset says they are starting points for development. That difference determines how you approach learning, relationships, work, challenges, and even your own sense of identity. If you've lived in a fixed mindset for years, it can be tempting to feel regret for the opportunities you didn't take or the risks you avoided. But here's the beauty of the growth mindset. It's never too late to change the way you think. You can start from exactly where you are with the skills and experiences you have now and begin building forward. Every great transformation starts with awareness. Once you see the patterns of fixed thinking, the fear of failure, the need for constant validation, the avoidance of challenge, you can begin to challenge them. You can replace "I can't" with "I can learn." You can replace "I failed" with "I'm improving." These small language shifts create huge psychological changes over time. And remember, the growth mindset doesn't mean blind optimism or pretending everything is easy. It means facing reality, acknowledging difficulties, and still believing in your capacity to adapt and improve. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. Think about what this means for your future. If skills can be developed, then there's no ceiling on what you can achieve. If setbacks are stepping stones, then every challenge is a teacher. If effort leads to mastery, then your potential is defined only by your willingness to keep going. And maybe the most powerful thing, a growth mindset doesn't just change your own life. When you embody it, you influence the people around you. Your kids, your friends, your coworkers, they see how you handle setbacks, how you welcome challenges, how you stay curious. That example can spark change in them, creating a ripple effect far beyond yourself. The fixed mindset says, "This is who I am." The growth mindset says, "This is who I am becoming." That's the difference between a life spent defending your limits and a life spent discovering your possibilities. So as you move forward, ask yourself, who do you want to become? And more importantly, what's the first step you can take today to start becoming that person?